Hiyo, I am Kitty, and this is going to be a bit of a different video than what I usually do or have done. I felt like making some sort of media outlet to just talk about a few things regarding me. And I was considering writing or, other formats, but I do think that it would be probably best and easiest maybe to just make at least an audio file. There's obviously not much in terms I can do of a video, because you can't really record what I want to discuss. So I just felt like making an audio and see where it goes. I don't have a script. I don't have anything really. So this is just gonna be freestyle, very honest, open, in whatever order the thoughts come, and yeah. So, as some of you maybe know, I have been suffering from depression since it's been a bunch of years now. I would say it started a few years after I came to Germany. I went to Germany when I was 17. I used to live in Switzerland with family or blood relatives. And when I was 17, I moved out to my first boyfriend back then, who was living in Germany. And at first there was no real depression, but a few years in, I would say around when I was living alone for the first time. After that, about when I had the next boyfriend, after that's about when it started. And I've been seeing a therapist for my depressions for a while now. I think this year. And I've also been on meds, like antidepressants, since December 2015, which is when I had a pretty hardcore breakdown. And my roomie brought me to the doctor, basically, to get some meds. And that's also when I started to go to a bunch of other doctors, namely a neurologist, where I had to take a whole bunch of tests for like 2 or 3 hours. I think 3 hours almost, where they wanted to just figure out how stuff is wired in my brain, and what's going on, what kind of things I have of the mental kind. And it's pretty much when they confirmed, I have depression, I have possibly social phobia and BPD, borderline personality disorder. And they were kind of skeptical about that, though. So I went to find a therapist, like a normal therapist, where I wanted to, dive a bit deeper, figure out the stuff, see if it's there. Well, I pretty much knew it was there, but maybe get an actual diagnosis, and obviously improving the situation. And unfortunately, it was more tailored to social phobia, so just fears of social situations, that kind of stuff. And even though I've had those, or I've been having those, it just didn't feel like the right thing to me, even less because it was a group therapy. And I just didn't like that you couldn't really talk so much or as much as you wanted about your own issues with the topic of social phobia. And so after a while, I quit because it just wasn't really helping me. I didn't like going, and I also didn't feel like it. We were taking on all the issues that I have, not like as all at once, but like the essence of my issues. So I had myself put on a waiting list for another therapist, just single therapy, not group therapy, and eventually she, it's a lady. She picked me up. She had no more waiting list, or it was my turn, whatever you want to call it. And at about the same time, I also found out about this clinic for borderline patients. And what it does is basically once a week on Mondays I go there for 2 hours. It's again a group therapy, and we talk about BPD, like what it is, why, how it happens, etc. And what they're trying to do there is to teach us skills. They're called skills. So things that help to calm down, get us out of breakdowns, episodes, whatever, and so you can function again as a, in a more normal way, I guess. So I do like my single therapy. It's really great. It's really nice to have somebody who's listening and actually taking me serious, and it's been really helping. And even though she doesn't know much, or as much about PPD as the people at the clinic, she's also been helping with that too. And as for the clinic, it's I was kind of excited at first because I had a chance to fix some things, learn some things, whatever. But I've been going there since April now, and we also had a lot of weeks where we just didn't have the sessions because there were so many holidays on Mondays this year that a lot of the sessions just didn't happen. It's been really hard for me to go. I just went there actually today again. Well, today's Monday, so whenever you see this video, depending. So basically today, Monday, the 12th of June. So there you go. And we're about 10 people. There's just one guy, and that's already kind of a problem for me, because I do way better with males. And the other thing is, I just really don't think I'm a person for group therapy, because once again, it's like, as much as this time it's the right topic or topics, I'm having trouble to do much of anything in there. I felt it's been kind of like quiet even at school and stuff, and sometimes we get homework and I would like to share, but it's just really hard because it's like we have like, let's say 10 minutes to discuss our homework. There's 10 people, or even if it's just 6 or whatever, we can't all discuss it in all depth and stuff, and it's discouraging for me to say much of anything. And I feel like currently me going to therapy is mostly to deal with my clinic group, which is it's kind of a pity, because it's also very depressing. It's you sit there, you listen to other people. A lot of times there's a bit of lack of manners. Like, you know, two people talk at once, people start kind of getting loud, and you're sitting there and getting triggered by that stuff, and it's just really rough. And every time I go, like usually during Sundays and definitely Mondays, I get kind of depressed because I know I have to go to the clinic again. And as much as I want to improve things, it's just, like I said, it's just I don't like the setup, because I'd rather have a single therapy thing. I mean, even in just my normal therapy, a lot of times the hour, quote unquote hour, is not actually an hour. It's not even enough, you know. So it's like I have so much that I want to say, that I want to share, that I want to ask, stuff like that, and it's just really hard because in a group you can't really, because if everybody did that, we'd be there for like 10 hours or so. So it's kind of, yeah. But I didn't specifically just want to come here and be like, oh yay, I have issues with my group or whatever. I wanted to just talk about my issues, my mental issues in general, how it is, why, how it feels and stuff, and because I really want people to understand as much as possible about this. So maybe if you've been sitting here listening to me and talk about the group therapy and stuff, you've been thinking like, what's the big deal, you know? But maybe you'll understand a bit more after I've explained a bit more what BPD even is. So basically, currently, you need to have at least 5 out of 9 symptoms for a diagnosis. It might change in the future. They might change the amount or the symptoms or whatever. I mean, it's an ongoing work thing. It's, you know, still being researched. It's, you know, you get the idea. So, but right now, it's 5 out of 9. So, symptoms for people with BPD are usually anger. I don't think I need to say much to that. Dissociating or like inner emptiness. So like when you're kind of disconnecting from everything, or like some people even talk about watching themselves from the outside, or, you know, things like those. Extreme relationships, having extreme relationships, either friendships, romantic relationships, or, you know, just extreme, one extreme, the other extreme, that kind of thing. Fear of being left, big one too. Identity crisis, so it's like you're constantly struggling. I mean, everybody's struggling with their identity, but like you're constantly like confused, like who am I supposed to be, what the hell's going on, am I like this, am I like that, you know, that kind of thing. Then obviously there's intensive feelings and mood swings, like really intensive feelings. Like people get excited about something, normal people get excited about something, and then if you have BPD, you get extra excited, and a lot of times you get frustrated because other people don't get as excited as you do, or you know, normal people get sad and you get like extremely sad, and maybe people start calling you oversensitive, or they're like, oh god, it's not that bad, or, you know, but for you it is that bad because it's just how your brain is wired. Impulsiveness is one, just doing things without really thinking about it. Again, it's not something that you do on purpose, it's just how you're wired. Self-harm, is a big one. So like, you know, people cutting themselves, people, you know, you name it. And paranoid thoughts. There's a difference between paranoid thoughts and schizophrenia. So paranoid thoughts is when you're, the more stressed out you are, the more you might see things, but you know they're not real. And also when you reduce your stress level, it goes away again. Unlike with schizophrenia, where you have it the whole time and you don't even really know. So like that. So yeah, from those 9 things, you're supposed to have 5 for a diagnosis, or, well, at least 5. And I personally fall into a lot of these myself, which is how we figured it out, because in those tests that I took at the neurologists, there were questions geared towards these topics, which is how you can figure it out, right? So how's living with PPD? It's exhausting. It can be very exhausting. It's constant questioning, constant chaos. It's really hard to be around people. Like, I want to be around people. I'm very social, if you couldn't tell. But at the same time, it can be very almost painful. Because, like in my case anyway, I'm like an empath, so I can tell if somebody is not feeling so great or whatever, and it can get really overwhelming. It can really, I can pretty much take it over. Like if I'm around somebody who's, for example, really down, I feel it, and it can really affect me, as like to the point where I myself become whatever the other person is, like, you know, the emotion that they have. Sometimes it's really weird, like you're behaving a certain way, almost like you're being taken over by this emotion, basically, and you can't really stop it, or you know, you can't really do much about it. Like, suddenly you might get really angry at somebody because you feel somebody being angry, but you weren't angry before. You didn't even mean to be angry or anything. It just kind of happens. Stuff like those. It's just, it can cause some issues, like, you know, with people around you. Like if you're suddenly angry at somebody for no reason, or like impulsiveness. It's like, it can be hard to make like plans with me. Like, let's say, oh hey, do you want to, like, it's Monday, let's say it's Monday, and it's like, hey, so next week would you like to hang out and, you know, do something? And I'm like, it's just really hard for me because like I'd like to say yes, but at the same time it's really dependent on how I feel during that day. Like, if I don't feel so great, I don't want to hang out, and, you know, so it's like, I usually like things to be a bit more spontaneous, but also not too spontaneous. It kind of depends what it is. Like, if I have to go to a doctor's appointment or whatever the hell, and I just get a letter or something like, hey, you have to come by now tomorrow or some crap, that gets really stressful. Appointments for me are stressful in general because it includes timing, you know, you can be too late, stuff like that. Like if the bus doesn't drive how it's supposed to, you could be late or whatever. So usually I'm way too early, and then I just sit there and wait forever. The last time I was too late to an appointment because there was no info desk, and there were 2 houses that made up the whole building somehow, and we didn't know which room to go and whatever. So the last time that happened, I started hyperventilating. Like my tension level got really bad, and I started hyperventilating, and I started crying, and like in the first moment you'd be like, what the fuck, you were just being late, right? But that's not how it feels for somebody who has BPD. You start panicking, you start getting really stressed and tense, and yeah, in my case I started hyperventilating, crying and stuff, and I was completely useless. I was what they call in the red level, basically. So if you imagine like a street sign, kind of, not a street sign, a street light. So you're in green, 1 to 30% tension is green, 40 to 70% tension is yellow, and then the rest is red. So obviously the higher you are, the harder it is to keep control over yourself, your emotions, and your thinking, that kind of thing. And that's where those skills come in. We learn in the clinic, we learn to have a variety of skills for the different tension levels. So for yellow, for green, for red, that we can use to come back down to a reasonable level, so we can function again, like, have control over our thoughts and behavior and stuff. And pretty much anything can be a skill, as long as it helps you short term, and long term it doesn't, it's not harmful. So for example, cutting yourself or self-harm is not a skill, because even though it can help you short term, long term it's dangerous or not really good. So it needs to be something positive, basically. And that stuff is not even that hard. It's just and I also found that being really open about this can be really helpful, because people used to just think that I'm fucking weird or a mental case or whatever, like all sorts of bad shit. But I understand why they think that, because if they expect me to act a certain way because that's the norm, and I can see why they think that I'm fucking weird or something. But at the same time, for somebody who has BPD, that's also really, really hardcore. That's because of how you develop BPD. In most cases, you develop it because of your environment. So in my case, specifically, it was based in very early childhood already. Like, if your parents don't really value you, or they keep acting like you're crazy, or they don't take you serious, or let's say you have one feeling, and then they're telling you that you can't have that feeling. Like, how it is with for example with guys, it's always like, you can't cry, you're a guy, stuff like that. It's really damaging. And I've had a lot of I guess external input like that ever since childhood, and so that's pretty much how I got my my BPD. In the beginning, it didn't show up really. Like, it didn't show up until very adult life now. I think it's because I had a pretty structured life. My childhood was pretty not good, but I still had a structured life, like getting up at that and that time each day, going to school, coming home for lunch, going to school again in the afternoon, blah blah, stuff like that. And it was very contained and stable still, like my life basically. But once that fell off, which is why I'm saying it pretty much came out a lot when I was in Germany, when I moved to Germany, because there was no more stability like that, or like it just broke loose, and which is technically a good thing because it needs to be treated, but it's also like, at first you wonder, like, how the hell did I do it way back, well, stable life can help. So there are obviously things that I'm sensitive to. So like in my case, whenever I was a really good student, very polite, very quiet, very studious, always great marks, best marks ever. I was the best at my school, and like my parents didn't really care, which is it's kind of weird because a lot of parents want their kid to be like really good and stuff and well behaved and all that, and mine just kind of took it for granted. And also just in general, it's like they were physically there but not really mentally or spiritually. So whenever I'd make something, I loved being creative. I still love being creative. If you've seen some of my work, I'd go show them because I was super excited, and with BPD even more excited, right? And they'd just be like, yeah, oh nice, like the oh yeah nice, because it's the thing some parents do, like this whole oh yeah nice. They're not really looking at it, they're just yeah nice, and it can be really devastating. Like back then it didn't do so much in that moment, because when you're a kid you still kind of, I don't want to say you don't get it as much, but sort of, but now it's just like it makes me deeply sad, because when I have something I'm really excited about, or I'm really proud of or whatever, and I show it to somebody and they're just like, oh yeah, cool, or it makes me really sad. And like I said, it might sound like, oh god, you're overreacting or something, like who cares? But I can't not care, like like normal people, or like other people, or not care as much, which is why they're teaching us these things, and I don't think it's gonna go away completely, like my BPD, especially because I also have something else mixed in there that I might talk about later. I don't know, but it can improve at least, so it's not as hard anymore. Because there are certainly or definitely a few things that I'm sensitive towards, like when I'm in a group of people, like so more than 2 people, with me counting, right? And if they act a bit weird, maybe, or like if they don't know me and they know just the other person and they just keep talking to that person and don't really say anything to me, even though I say something, or it kind of feels like they're ignoring you, basically. I do poorly with that, like because then it's like you're sitting there and you just keep wondering, like, what have I done to this person? Have I said something wrong? Have I done something wrong? Why do they dislike me? And then you have all these questions in your head and you become really insecure, and at some point I get like really frustrated and just defeated, and I don't want to say anything anymore. And then the person you already know starts being like, are you okay? Like, you're so quiet suddenly, which is already strange for me, like, and you're just not having fun anymore, and it's just like there's this whole escalation thing. It's like a downward slide or something, and it's just, especially if you like making friends, or and I'm also not really that hard to get along with, despite weird behaviors, but like, it can just be so weird, and so you think they're ignoring you, then you're behaving a certain way, and then they probably definitely think that you're weird, and stuff is just so awkward and weird, and I don't know, it can be just so hard. And recently I've had a whole bunch of added stress and extra depression, which is why I wasn't making a lot of videos and streams. Like, actually, what happened with the streams is that I was streaming, like, you know, recently, and I had fun with it. But then there was that one time, also recently, where, so the last time I streamed basically, where for some reason, the stream was constantly lagging and the stream constantly froze. And, you know, being the BPD person that I am, I started to become extremely insecure, and I started feeling super weird, and because, you know, it didn't work like it was supposed to. And since then, I've been extremely scared to have a stream again, because I'm like, oh god, what if it happens again, and then people don't enjoy coming anymore, and then you know, because I'm trying to like make this a thing, and I want people to enjoy themselves, and you know, and then it really just it becomes this huge ass thing, you know, like it shouldn't, but it just does. And there are some people, some uneducated people, who are just like, oh, don't be so dramatic, or it's no big deal, you know. But it's not just like that. You can't just flip a switch or turn it off, or you know. You also can't just talk me out of it with logic or with emotion or whatever the hell. It's really hard, and I know it can be hard for people who are my friends, my boyfriends, my girlfriends, whatever, to, you know, to deal with it sometimes. I mean, sometimes everything's cool, right? And then something happens, and I just get really tense. Like, let's say I go into the high yellow level, or even red. And if you don't know about all of this stuff, like, you know, BPD and skills and whatnot, you're just gonna sit there at first like, what the fuck am I gonna do? She's freaking out and I don't know what to do, you know? Which again is why I like to talk about this and tell people what they can do. And because at first glance, I probably come across as, oh god, so much work, so high maintenance or whatever, but you know, it's not my fault, it's not your fault, it's just how it is. And it's not even that much high maintenance or that much work if you kind of know a bit about BPD and some skills and whatnot. And I like explaining it to people and telling them how they can help me and stuff. So it's not that I'm just sitting here like, oh god, I have BPD, I can't change it, blah. I hate the whole victimizing thing, actually. Which is why, like I said, some of those clinic people are hard for me to deal with. So, you know. And I don't know, I can imagine that it's really hard to like follow any of this if you're like a more normal person, or if you've never had to deal with BPD. Or any of that stuff. So it's definitely not as easy to understand as if you have it yourself, or if you know somebody, or if you've had to deal with it, or you know. And there's also like a lot of shitty stigmas surrounding people with BPD. There's one place on Reddit, for example, that I've looked at. There was basically, it was very discouraging, and it made me really sad when I saw that. There was basically this whole subreddit where people who have dated BPD patients were like, not even just exchanging themselves or like, you know, ranting or anything, but they were being like extremely disgustingly mean, and they started this whole like the whole subreddit is basically just like, oh, don't date anybody with BPD, they're just gonna cheat on you, they're gonna manipulate you, blah blah blah, blah, stuff like that. And I'm just sitting here like, I have BPD, and then you read something like that and you're like, well shit, people are gonna just think that I'm manipulative, or that they shouldn't date me because, oh, so horrible, or, you know, just because some people had a bad experience. And again, I see where they're coming from, but it's like, do they have to be so generally negative about it? Or, you know, like, it's, there's all these freaking stigmas, like, oh, people with BPD are fucking lazy, they're fucking, like, yeah, like I said, manipulative, don't date them, right? And they're nutcases, and like there's other stigmas for other mental issues as well, you know. And it's really hard. It's really heartbreaking to like read about that, and because, you know, a lot of people don't know about it, and they might be more inclined to believe somebody who's already dealt with somebody who has borderline, as opposed to just listen to somebody who has borderline, who tells you, no, look, it's not like this shit happens on purpose. Like, I've done dumb stuff before. Like, I'm gonna be the first one to admit, I've done fucking stupid stuff before. You know, shit that ended up hurting people, but it's not, I didn't do it on purpose. I wasn't sitting there like, oh, how can I fuck this person's day up or something, you know? There are people like that, do that because it's fun for them. But for me, it's like I said, impulsiveness, for example, is one of the BPD symptoms or issues. So it's just, you know, we do something, or I do something, and I just didn't think about the outcome too much. Though, I mean, I've been trying to work on myself really hard since forever. I think the most books in my bookshelf are self-help books. I always like to read up on the internet. I've tried out so many apps for depression, for BPD, and stuff like that. And you know, I'm always trying to improve, and that's also what sets me apart a lot from all the other people in my group. And I've been actually told that you know, that I'm really open with it, and that I'm you know, doing all these things. Like my therapist, for example, she's always really impressed and almost, you know, shocked and surprised, but in a good way, because like I'm really trying hard to improve these things, and I'm really, you know, self-active, and, you know, that kind of stuff. That's why I'm like, you know what, I really want to make a video about this, because I don't think that it's always very easy to understand. Like, for example, oh, I haven't made a stream since like weeks, but at the same time I'm like writing all these happy things on my Twitter. To be very frank, I don't like putting negative shit on my Twitter. Like, some people like to vent on there or clean their dirty laundry on there. I don't like doing that. I don't feel like that's very professional. And it's not like I'm trying to hide that I have shitty days or whatever. It's literally just, I don't feel like it's professional to put that kind of stuff on there. And I would like, I mean, I'm trying to, you know, make it someplace with streaming and all these other things, like article writing, YouTube, whatever. And I might even would like to work for Hi-Res, you know, the company that makes SMITE and stuff. And I just don't feel like that's a good habit to have, like, you know, to put negative / quote unquote unprofessional stuff on your Twitter. I see that from other people sometimes who are kind of in the spotlight, and I always kind of like think, man, really, did you have to do that? Like, you know, it just doesn't reflect well on yourself, I think. It's one thing if you say like, oh, I had kind of a crappy day, I'm looking forward to some, I don't know, ice cream later today or something, but it's another completely different question if you're like, oh, this person sucks, that company's shit, or, you know, like, if you're really raging out there and naming names and just being angry and shit. I don't know. But that's just me, you know. I'm kind of I guess an expert with about this whole anger swallowing. I mean, I used to do it a lot, definitely. Anger swallowing, sadness swallowing. My stomach is fucking broken now, so I don't recommend doing that. But I also don't recommend being super destructive with it. Like I said, skills are cool. I could talk about those in an extra video sometime if you want, or like share what I have. There are lists out there, but most lists are either very, like, not very physical, like just things you do in your head mostly, which I'm like, you know, or it's just like always the same, you know, and I'm just like, yeah, that's great, but they don't help me personally a lot. Maybe they help somebody else, and that's cool, but like, you know, like I can tell you my skills bag, I guess, pouch, whatever, looks way different than any of the other people's in my group. And also a lot of it just looks very different from other people's in general. And that's okay. It's just something that I noticed. So I personally couldn't do much with those lists online, like, you know. So I just thought about stuff on my own, and I've generally been really thinking recently about a lot of things. Also, like, what do I want to do in terms of, like, work, I guess, activities, like, you know, doing videos for YouTube or streaming or stuff like that. I would like to keep streaming. Like I said, I've just been too freaking scared recently. Because I'm a freaking perfectionist, obviously, and when stuff starts freezing and I just can't do much about it, it's just, I feel like I failed, even though it's not my fault, you know. And I've been looking at Fiverr a little bit. Like, I was wondering if I should, for example, make Twitch overlays for other people. I would like that. And like SMITE coaching, like for beginners or for casuals anyway. I'm pretty good at that, and I really like it. Just playing with people, explaining how things work, trying to help and help them find their main characters and stuff, main gods. Because I've actually told that to my therapist recently. SMITE is a big topic in my life. It has been a big topic in my life. It's she actually asked me about it. Even she said, so, like, I told her that I've had depression for a bunch of years and I've been suicidal, and she said, oh, what kept you from, like, doing anything? So I said, well, there was, for one, me restarting or making a new YouTube channel. I've had one before already, but it didn't do anything for me anymore, and I just, you know, the idea of starting new and being able to just start fresh and maybe with a bit of a different audience and different contents and stuff, that just really looked appealing. Because when you're depressed and you don't really see anything you know, good anymore and stuff like that, it can help. And the second thing was SMITE. I was just, as stupid as it sounds and as useless as it is, basically, I was on SMITE. I played, I learned all those gods, I learned how to build, how to counter build, how to play the modes, you know, like, it was just something to keep me busy all these years, while I had to wait for things to happen, you know, like waiting for to find a therapist, or for a therapist to take me because they have waiting lists, waiting for meds to work, you know, just a lot of shit in life seems like it's waiting. A big part of life seems like it's waiting, really. And I don't mean just sitting here and twiddling your thumbs, but just like, you know, waiting for that kind of event to happen, that kind of appointment, this kind of thing, blah, you know. Like, even when you do things, it's just kind of like, you're still kind of waiting on something. Like, you're, you know, if you have a job, you're waiting for your paycheck while you do things. You're waiting for your boyfriend, girlfriend to come home. You're waiting to get married, or, you know, whatever. It's weird. I don't know. So yeah, the SMITE thing. I've had people tell me, some years back mostly, like, well, you're fucking addicted to SMITE, like, you know, they were making it a negative thing, and I'm just like, I don't know, like, you know, why does it disturb them? I mean, it helped me. It's not for everybody. Maybe, you know, other people find something else, or another game, or something completely different, but it helped me. It helped me not wanting to, or not constantly having to think about killing myself and shit, you know? Like, that's a good thing. Again, that's basically a skill. It's like, it helped me in the moment, and in the long term, it didn't really harm me. So, you know, can help, right? Skills can obviously also go bad. Like, you could actually get addicted to video games or whatever it is. But you know, it's all a question of regulation. And regulating. So yeah, I also like writing for my website. I wanted to make very in-depth guides for SMITE, for each character, for each god. We have 88 right now. Jesus Christ. Yeah, my crafting shop thingy. I'm actually gonna rework it like as soon as I can. Like, I've been thinking of a new name for it, and maybe a new look, and, you know, stuff like that. And I might even make an Instagram for it, so I can, like, get my stuff out there a bit easier. You know, so I don't know, I've just been thinking, and it's not, I'm not currently trying to, like, make an actual income to sustain myself, but, like, you know, have a bit more money each month, take a bit of the stress away of constantly being like, oh god, is the money gonna be enough this month for my bills and the meds and everything, you know, that kind of shit, and all the tickets I need to buy for freaking subways and trains and shit. Unfortunately, not everything is in walking distance. So, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, this video's long. I don't know, I just wanted to put it out there. I wanted to put more information about BPD out there, and about a bit of why sometimes I guess I'm just, like, gone or something, like, from my channel, from my stream, whatever, or why sometimes I'm just staying to myself, or, you know, it's not always necessarily because somebody did something or whatever, or, you know, it's just sometimes depression hits, sometimes BPD hits, sometimes other shit hits, and maybe I can also, you know, help spread some awareness about this, and, like, for people who have it, or for people who don't have it, so they maybe understand people who do have it a bit better, hopefully. If you have questions about this whole BPD thing, or the DBT, so, like, the therapy we're doing, or skills, or whatever the hell, just let me know. I'll answer, you know, if I can. And I don't know, it's out now. You know, helps me a lot too, because I feel like when people know I don't have to feel as self-conscious about certain things, you know, like, oh god, blah, what are they thinking right now because I did this and this, or because I didn't do this and that, or it's exhausting. I'm trying to get as much stress off of me right now as I can. And oh yeah, speaking of, there are some papers that we sometimes have to fill out for PPD stuff, and I've been redesigning them, and I might put them on my Etsy so people can get them there and use them for themselves too. Like, I'm mostly simplifying them and also like making them visually appealing, so it's kind of easier to fill out. Because honestly, a lot of times I don't feel like filling shit out. Like, if it's just a standard form and it's just black ink on white paper, it's just like, instead, if it looks kind of visually appealing and you can add a bit of your own touch or something, and it's way more just attractive to do and fill out and, you know, do real quick and stuff, you know. So yeah, I'll be restyling some of those forms, and like I said, maybe I'll make some extra papers or something about skills, or, you know, all that stuff. Just let me know, I guess, so I can figure out what you want to see or what you want to know more about. Yeah, so I don't have anything else to say right now. I hope this was informative and that it helps to maybe get some things that seem weird or so. And if somebody has it themselves, maybe it helped them a little bit too. I definitely do recommend to be open about it, because this whole trying to fit in or whatever, or lying about it is it's so draining. Really. As long as you don't victimize yourself, I guess. You know, there's, like I said, there's people who are like, oh god, I have PPD, have pity with me or something, or I'm gonna use this as an excuse to be lazy now or whatever. Nah, don't do that. It's not good. You're also gonna make all of, like, the rest of us look bad. It's not great. You know, yourself and the rest of us, so don't do that. So yeah. I have a few things planned that I want to stream and record and stuff, but I need to see when I'll get around to doing it. There's still so much crap on my list here. I need to sort out. It's gonna be a bit busy again right now because there's a few things I have to start up, and the starting up takes quite a bit of time. But once it's started, it's not gonna take so much, you know, effort and time anymore to like maintain it. So there's that. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna say right now. Like I said, if you have questions, let me know. If something was unclear, because this was freaking freestyling, no notes or anything. And other than that, as always, thanks for watching, thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye!